Greetings, dear friends, on this Sunday morning, a chilly weekend, and what a blessing the rain has been. Today we follow in Mark's Gospel, chapter 7. Now when the Pharisees gathered to Jesus with some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem, they saw that some of Jesus' disciples ate their hands that were defiled and unwashed. For the Pharisees and all the Jews did not eat unless they washed their hands according to the tradition of the elders. We go on to when the Pharisees come to Jesus and said, "How can you allow this to happen?" And Jesus answered, "Well did Isaiah prophesy of you, hypocrites? For it is written, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain they do not worship me, teaching as doctrines of the commandments of themselves.'" And that's the word of God for the people of God. And thanks be to God. Yesterday, Merle's devotion really struck a chord for me, for I had been thinking along the same lines. Of course, when she spoke about baldness, that certainly got my attention very quickly. She was speaking, and I want to continue, about some of the practices that we use, some of the habits, some of the things that we do that help us to remind us of God's presence in our lives. John Wesley called those the means of grace. Those means that help us to understand the grace that God has for us. And as Merle shared about the keys, each of us in our own individuality have different ways in which we can experience or be reminded or brought closer to God. But as many of us as there are, so too are there different ways in which we can understand and see God. So for me, you may have seen I wear a bracelet with a small cross on it. It is a reminder for me, and it came through a special service one day when the symbol became real to me, that I wear it there to remind myself of God's grace. And so too, we have different ones. Now, my bracelet is not a God thing. God never told me to wear that. It's not there because I have to wear that, otherwise I'm not going to know God. It's a Peter thing. It's a thing that Peter finds helpful to be drawn close to God. And so we too all have our own ways of being able to do that. The Pharisees had made those ways legalistic. If you don't wear a bracelet like Peter, you are not going to know God. And Jesus reminds them it's about the heart. You know, we as Christians are very quick to criticize the way other people do things. And especially if it does not fit into our own tradition or our Christian Western experience of God. This extends even to other religions, because sometimes the way they do things may remind us of God, the God whom we serve and the God whom we love. I remember sitting next to the mighty Ganges River in India in the holy city of Varanasi and watching a young couple bringing their young baby to come and worship and to offer to who they thought was God an offering. And whilst they were doing that, my friend and I, who were watching it, made the comment to each other, "You know what? That's so similar to what we do in baptism." We could recognize that for them, that was important. For us, that's not the way we would want to do it. We find other ways to make God important in our lives. But for all the means of grace today, for all the ways that people experience that, let's give thanks. Let's give thanks that, as Jesus says, it touches their hearts and not just a process that has to be done. And so today, we're going to be celebrating the means of grace of communion. And I know that for so many of us, that is very special. That is one that we share. And so today, may you be blessed in the ways in which you find God, and God is important to you. And as you do so, keep safe, friends. Yes, those distances, the masks, the usual story. And if you can, vaccinate. Take care.